Hi, I'm back. That was quick. I said I might not be back before Christmas, but it looks like I've made it. I had a chance to do the remaining panel that was needed to complete the forward overhead for the x737 project on Air Manager. So what I'd like to do is run through this panel, and while I'm at it, I'll show you where all these lights are on the aircraft. Let's start with the left of the panel, and you can see up here we have 4 landing light switches. We have 2 fixed switches, left and right, and these just have 2 positions. There you can see the left and the right. They're mounted in the wing root, and they give you forward landing lights. There's also 2 retractable lights. Now these retractable lights can be extended. I don't know if you can see it coming out down here on the fuselage. And there's the other one. And then if I turn them one more position from extend to on, you can see them come on. Now if I can get that's about as low as I can get, but you can see those lights are aimed down so that when the aircraft is in a normal landing mode, these are pointing down at the runway. So with the nose up, they're going to illuminate the runway out in front of the aircraft as it's approaching the touchdown zone. So the reason those can be retracted is, well, obviously retracted for requiring less drag, but earlier airplanes, they were classics, they were mounted out on the wing and they created even more drag. But they were like little mini spoilers under the wings. But the beauty of this is that you can, if you're in the weather, and if you've ever flown in the weather, you're just, these bright lights against the white clouds with intermittent breaks, it can be quite disorienting and also very difficult to see the approach lights if you have bright lights in front of you. So oftentimes we'll leave these lights in the extended position, and then we can turn them on with one click, and that will give us the lighting because there won't be a delay while those lights are being extended. Now if I turn these all off, you'll notice this little hinged paddle here. This is so that we can turn all the lights on at once, whether they're in the on or the extended position. When we pull this paddle down, it'll push all the switches forward to on and all at once. So I'll click that and watch, see they all come on at once. So that's pretty handy when you're on short final, you break out of the weather, you see that runway out ahead, you've already got them extended but not on. Just reach up and put your fingers behind that and just push it forward and all the lights come on for landing. So that's the reason they have that paddle there. Now, working our way to the right, we have runway turnoff lights. Now, there's one they're right next to the inboard or the fixed landing lights, but these aim out at a slightly different angle. Let me see if I can highlight that for you. If you come out here, you can see maybe these lights are aiming out in this direction, and maybe if I can, you can see there, you can see the angle right there. You can kind of, it's a little light here for it, but you can see that right there is the angle at which those are aiming out. So they're made so that you can see the exit that you're making when you're turning off the runway. So those are the turnoff lights, just 2 positions. Then we have the taxi light. Now the taxi light is mounted on the nose gear, right on the nose, between the nose wheels. This gets damaged a lot during pushback because it's very close to where the tow bar gets connected, and once in a while they don't get the tow bar connected exactly right, and it drops off and that thing slams in and breaks the taxi light, and we have to wait for maintenance to come out and change that thing. Sometimes that's a fairly common thing. And now this will be this turns with the wheels, so it's kind of aims where you're going. So that's the taxi light. Now this is the APU. To start the APU, you have to hold it in there's 2 positions. There's on, which really is just for when it's running. Of course there's off, and then start. And to start you have to hold it down. So I'm going to click and hold it down. Hold it for a few seconds to get it started, and then release. It springs back to the on position, and that starts the sequence for starting the APU. Engine start switches. they have a couple positions. They have ground and flight. I mean continuous and flight. Continuous is what you would use when you are in icing conditions or something like that, because sometimes this leading edge of the engine will gather ice, and even with the heating on, that is heated around there, that ice will go through the engine. And to prevent any problems, or in heavy rain, we'll leave those in continuous. And they're both have that. And then flight is for starting the engine in flight. That's when you're doing a windmilling start. In other words, the airplane is in the air and you have lost an engine, you want to restart it, but you have enough speed. And there's a little chart that you can look at, compare your speed to the RPM and decide if you need an assist on the start. If you need an assist on the start, you do the same thing as you do on the ground, and that is turn it to ground. Now, this switch will not stay in ground unless the starter can be engaged. In other words, you have to have, it's pneumatic, electro-pneumatic. And when the switch has air pressure on it and the engine's not running, you can turn that to ground and it'll hold in that position. You actually have to push in on it and turn it. Of course, I couldn't model that in this 2D cockpit, but when I turn this for an engine that's not running, it'll hold in the ground position until it restarts or cut out, and then it'll turn back to off. These ignitions allow you, there's 2 ignition systems in each engine, and it's got left and right. Normally what we do is we fly with it in one position, and then when we get ready to start the next one, we reverse it so that we're alternating the wear and tear on the ignition systems. But you can turn both on too if you're in heavy rain or that sort of situation. Then we have the logo light. Now the logo light, let me see if I can turn around and give you a better view of that. The logo light is going to shine on the tail, of course. You can see that. I don't know if I can show you. Well, yeah, you can see where it is. See it on the surface there, and there. I flew mostly the classic airplanes without the winglets. That was actually mounted on the tip of the wing and shooting back there, but with the winglets that won't work, and it's mounted in the stabilizer. The other light that I'll show you maybe while I'm in this position is the wing light. Now you can see it right here. Let me see if I can get a better angle. There you go. It's on both sides, and it's just a wing inspection light. And sometimes we can look back from the cockpit. You see, you have a very limited view of the wing. You can't see the whole wing from here. If we have icing and we need to do a cockpit inspection, usually we go back here to just about the emergency exit row, and we sneak through there and look out the window with this light on so we can see if there's any ice buildup on the leading edge of the wings. But you can see that illuminates that area, and it's on both sides. Okay, so that's the wing light. Now, there's also a wheel well light. And the wheel well light, it's kind of hard to show. I want to zoom in here. I don't know if you can see it. You can see a little bit of it there. I'll turn it off and on. You can see the wheel wells, the main wheel well and the nose wheel well and the nose gear well. Those are lighted. They're lighted for a good reason, because there's inspection ports in both places where you can look through a little window and see stripes mechanically lined up to show you the gear's down and locked if that's if you have an unsafe gear indication. And the one in the back, you have to go down and rip up some carpet at a certain row number. I forget what row number it is. It's held down by Velcro, and pull it up and look through this little thing while you're laying on your belly, basically. I'll tell you a funny story. If a guy I know was flying with he was a new co-pilot. He was about my seniority, and he was flying with a captain. We just got 737-200s, and he had an unsafe gear indication. So the captain sent him back to do this. So he goes back, and he's trying to find this place, and he finds the hole in the carpet, and he gets down on his belly, and he's looking to see if the gear's down, and all of a sudden, boom, the airplane hits the ground. Well, while he was back there, the captain, the little green lights came back on, so the captain knew it was there. He was in a position to land. They said, "You're cleared to land." And he went on and landed, This poor sucker was laying on the floor with all the passengers in the back, and he said he felt a little embarrassed when he had to get up after they had landed and walk back up to the cockpit. But anyway, that's a story that's true. I can verify it. But the captains thought it was the safest course while he had the lights green and everything looked good, just to get the airplane on the ground without having to fly another big circuit. I don't know if there was also some fuel issues involved. But anyway, that's wheel well lights. Pretty important. It's a go no go thing. If it's not operating, the aircraft can't dispatch, because you have to be able at night to see, and even in the day it's hard to see in that wheel well. It's fairly dark in there, so you need to be able to look at that. There's also a viewport in the front, and you actually almost have to open the cockpit door to be able to get in a position to see down there too. So it's really not a well-engineered thing, especially in this day where we have very secure cockpits, and opening that door is a major deal. Okay, the other thing I'll show you here, well, I'll show you the anti-collision light. There's a anti-collision light here, and we'll turn that on, and you can see that here on the top of the airplane. See the red light, and there's also one underneath the belly. Can you see that there? Those are the anti-collision lights, and those are the ones we turn on right before we start engines. That's kind of a signal in the airplane world, in the airline world at least, and probably all the airplane world, I don't know, that your engines are running. So before you start the engine, you turn the anti-collision light on, and that kind of says to the world and all the ground people, we're going to start these engines, so get away, get out of the way. And that's the anti-collision light. The only other light I haven't shown you is the strobes and position lights. Of course, you may remember the position lights. I'll turn those on steady first. You can see there's a green on the right and a red on the left, and seems to remember something about red right returning. The same situation in boating. There's but anyway, the left one is red, the right one is green, and these again are go no go items that could restrict the airplane. There's also some white position lights in the back that would kind of give someone a clue that they're overtaking an airplane from the rear, and those are required. Newer airplanes, they double those up and they're using LEDs, but in the old days those were lights that had just one bulb, so it could stop an airplane and couldn't dispatch at night without those operating. I know I've set an occasion at an outbase, set and waited for the sunrise, legal, actually civil twilight, a half an hour before sunrise, before we could depart, because it was too hard. It was going to take 2 hours to get contract maintenance out to change those bulbs, and it was just easier just to wait, 20 minutes or so, or a half an hour till the sun came up, and then dispatch late and get on our way. So that's that. Now there is another position here. Of course, there's off, and then there's strobe and steady, and that gives you a strobe light in addition to the position lights. Of course, you don't want to turn those on until you're taking off. Nothing more annoying than having someone sitting in position with those lights flashing in your eyes when you're sitting number one waiting to take off. So that's the switches. The only other thing, I guess we covered everything here, the start switches. So that's really all I have on this panel. It's a very simple panel, but it took quite a bit of time to model, believe it or not, because of all the switches having to be able to click and hold and that sort of thing, and a lot of multiple position switches. So anyway, that's the panel. Pretty much got everything on the overhead done. I'll try to show you here in a moment a picture of the entire panel done. In fact, what I'd like to do maybe in one future video is show you, put these on the touch screen and show you how I've designed these so that with your fingers you can manipulate all these switches without needing to use the mouse. Here's just a quick look at the panel after everything's connected. You can see everything still works, even though it's a smaller version. I think this is half the resolution that the switches were made at, and that's why these numbers need a little adjustment here. For some reason those didn't translate well, but this gives you a view of the whole panel completed, and an idea of what we're talking about and how everything works. Looks real good together, even in this resolution, and if we put it on a 4K monitor and oriented in the portrait mode, it should be very sharp looking, and the gauges will be very lifelike and realistic in size. thanks for watching. And I really mean it. Hope you have a Merry Christmas or Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever your faith celebrates. We hope you enjoy this upcoming holiday season and your family. Thank you.